Green cards. Usually the goal that we're all striving for. Not always, but most often. Generally, a green card requires what we call a labor certification. A certification by the U.S. Department of Labor that there's a shortage of qualified U.S. workers in the U.S. and that hiring a foreign worker will not adversely affect the American labor market. It's a very cumbersome and time-consuming process. It's a headache. It's to be avoided whenever possible. And secondly, once you get past the labor certification process, as we all know in India, you have to qualify under either EB2 or EB3 on the immigrant visa quota. EB2 being cases where at least a master's degree is required for the job, EB3 being cases where at least a bachelor's degree or a skilled worker 2 years experience is required for the job. Quotas are backed up about 5 years at the moment. What that means actually is people getting green cards in EB2 and 3 today from India, people born in India. They started the process 5 years ago, and they're just now getting their green cards in 2006. EB1 for multinational executives and managers can avoid both of those problems. No labor certification is required, and the EB1 quota is current at the moment and is foreseen to be current for the future. So if you can get your managers and executives in, typically your L1As for green cards, you can avoid both problems and get the green card in about a year as opposed to 5 or more years. If, however, you can't avoid the labor cert process, you have to do a labor certification. The current labor certification process is known as PERM, P-E-R-M. It stands for something which I've never understood, so we'll leave that alone. It started March 28, 2005. Cases filed after that date have to be filed as PERM cases. It's an electronic filing system. Cases filed before that date that were pending, and there were 340,000 of those in March of 2005. Those have all been transferred to backlog elimination centers and are being worked on. Employers in the U.S. do have the option of converting their pending cases from the old labor cert process to PERM if they choose to do so. The labor certification process, whether it was the old process or the new PERM process, is very, very complex. And the slightest misstep can lead to audits, can lead to an audit certainly of the case that's pending, but it can lead to audits of all your other cases, and it can lead to various problems that will make it very, very difficult, if not impossible, for you to get labor certifications for any of your employees in the future. So it's it's critical that the labor cert process be done properly the first time. If you look at page 32 of your materials book, there's a very detailed article on the PERM process which you can read at your leisure. The green card process can be used, if properly structured, to allow you to extend time in H-1B status and extend time in L1 status. H-1Bs, as I mentioned, are limited to 6 years. L1Bs, specialized knowledge, limited to 5 years. L1As limited to 7 years. As I indicated before, when you max out, you're required to leave the U.S. for 1 year before you can come back and start over. What do you do with an L1B that's approaching the 5-year limit? Well, the person has a degree or the equivalent, maybe substitute the experience for the missing years towards that degree. Convert them to an H-1B if the quota is available. You can get a 6th year that way. If you start the green card process before the end of their 5th year in L1B, you can put them in a position, as we learned earlier, to get 1-year incremental extensions. If they've been promoted while in the U.S. to managerial or executive positions, you may consider converting your L1Bs and your H1Bs, for that matter, to L1As. They get 7 years. Recapture is always available for time spent outside the U.S. on H's and L's. And in certain cases, if you started a long time ago and you really planned ahead for your employees in the U.S., they've waited out the quota. Now they filed their green card application in the U.S. Their H or their L is maxing out. What do? Well, as part of filing the final step in the green card process, called adjustment of status, they can get work permits and travel documents to allow them to continue working in the U.S. and traveling while the green card case is completed.